Trading Time with your host, John Rousseau.
Hi, I'm Andrenee Shepherd, producer of Trading Time. Today's episode features our host, John Rousseau, speaking with Sara Cousins, manager of trades programs at Okanagan College, and Tanya Tarlit, program administrator. Together, they'll talk about OC's innovative trades programs for girls and youth and how they're sparking interest in the trades across the Okanagan. Enjoy the episode.
Sara and Tanya, thank you very much for joining us today on Trading Time. I love the idea of your program, and I would like you to give us an overview of the why of this program. And I want you to point out some of the benefits to the trades in this program. It's exciting. Who'd like to lead?
So we have a number of programs for youth in trades, which we can talk about particularly today, and particularly for females in trades as well. And that can start as young as grade 4. So we have spring break camps coming up in Penticton that will be go-karts.
Yep.
And intro to carpentry for grade 4 to 6.
Yep.
And meddling with metal, which is a welding course for grade 7 to 9. So that's where it starts. And we're increasing those options as much as we can. Mm-hmm. Tanya works in those programs quite a bit, so she can talk a little bit more about that. Also in Penticton, we have Intro to Trades summer camps, which will be go-kart, meddling with metal, and so on. That will be coming up this summer again.
Go-kart. So I mean, I'm assuming this is like a mechanical thing. We're wrenching on it, motors and
absolutely.
engines. Yeah.
Yeah, the best thing with go-karts is we do actually have a fleet of go-karts. And every year what we do is we have the students be able to take the tires off. They do oil changes. They go through the carburetor, figure out what they need to do with it, and then they put it back together. Then they actually get to paint and design. So they are shown things that they might see within a collision department and how to be able to develop that. Then they're shown how to do a little bit of airbrushing, make their own design on their go-karts. Then they are taught how to design a track. So if you're going to...
A track for racing.
Yeah, a track for racing. So they go out and they do this really detailed track. It's up to the students that are there. There's normally 16 of them. And they design their track. And on the Friday, parents are invited to come watch. They have the flags out. For most of them, first time they've ever put pedal to the metal. So
so they're actually driving this unit that they've just tricked out.
That's right.
And maintained and painted and all that.
Yeah.
That is such a great
It's awesome.
opportunity.
Yeah.
And so this is happening at what age demographic is this particular?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have 2 that run. One is for our younger ones, and that's actually our female focused ones, grades 4 to 6. And then our grades 7 to 9s is for everyone. So anyone can be involved in that. So that's when it starts. You know, they get involved in the 4 to 6. Often, it's one of our most entertaining camps and
Very popular.
super popular.
Oh, yeah.
It's sold out within a day normally, right?
Yeah.
But you'll see the same group of students, even though they did something with it the year before, they loved it so much that they keep on coming back and coming back. And then they become really comfortable with what we would consider small engine repair, right? Mm-hmm. So being really involved in the whole aspect of it. And if you're starting at the 4 to 6 level, it's not as detailed as you would get in the grade 7 to 9, but they still get that touch point that they probably will never get unless they have someone in their life to show them that, right?
Mm-hmm. So facilitator to student ratio, where are you guys at? How big is the program?
So for our day camps, the maximum we'll ever have is 16. And
16?
Yeah, 16. And that's actually throughout all of our programs. So if you are in any of our trades programs, the maximum that we will normally have is 16. So we'll have one instructor for our day camps. And then we also have a helper, we would call them, right? To be able to come in and help and make sure the students are understanding what's going on. So yeah.
Okay, so that was the go-kart one.
Yeah, that's go-kart one.
Give me the overview of the metal. The metal program.
Meddling with metal.
Yes. Yeah, meddling with metal.
Which is fairly new.
It is fairly new. So we have done meddling with metal for about 3 years in our Kelowna location. In the Penticton location, we started this last year, and we had a great partnership with the Canadian Welding Bureau, CWB. That one is fantastic when we're able to get the partnerships, because we'll have mentors from the community that will come in and help do that with the students. The great thing with the metal camp is they are fully fitted. So they are in leathers, they have the full mask, they are ready to weld. And for most people, welding can be quite intimidating, right? So when you get to have students being able to understand the safety that they need to have around welding, but then be able to create some pretty cool, actually more than pretty cool, really cool takeaway projects, they want to do it again and again. Yeah. And welding is actually, and Sarah can speak to this, one of our very popular trades right now. So being able to get these students at a young age and be able to develop that is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this Jill of all trades program, I see these matching shirts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're saying that the Jill of all trades program starts at grade 4?
No.
Jill of all trades is a one-off program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. An international program now, which is amazing.
It was birthed in Kelowna?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right. Okay. I wasn't sure.
No. All good questions.
It's just a new piece in our puzzle.
In the basket of goodies that we have for youth. So Jill of all Trades was birthed in Conestoga College in Ontario.
All right.
And Conestoga decided that this was going to be an awesome opportunity for young women to get to see many different trades within one day, and to have an environment where they are fully hyped up for that one day, and they get to have hands-on workshops for that day. And this year was our first year, actually, for Jill of all Trades.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So now this is, thank you for bringing me up to speed. This is supplementary to all of those other courses that you just laid out. They're not, okay. All right.
No, it's for grades 9 to 12.
Okay.
And they spend an hour in each shop, and most of them have take-home activities that they bring, but some of them are also group projects. They built a reading nook with carpentry and electrical this past May. And there were 75 girls from various school districts, including in the south, that were there in Kelowna, and then we're doing it again in Vernon, a mini one in November.
So, I mean, I don't know what it was like when you went to high school. I would imagine we're probably close in age, but like where I went and when I went to high school, we had what you've proposed in our school already, where you would get a sampling of, you'd be in a cooking class, you'd be in a sewing class, metal, wood shop. You'd have, I think it was a 6 or 8, I think it was probably 6 weeks in each. Is this not happening in high schools anymore? Like I guess what I'm wondering is why do we have this program?
Right.
Yeah.
What happened to our high schools? Was it like that when you went to school?
Yes. To a certain extent, but not, you wouldn't be able to sample as many of the trades, at least when I went to school, right?
Yes,
like I wouldn't have been able to get hands-on with a welding instructor, right? Like we wouldn't be full out. And no, that wasn't something in high school. Certainly we had our automotive department, and we had our carpentry shop, and we didn't have electrical.
Yeah, those are the main ones.
Yeah.
Because I've heard that, and maybe you can elaborate on this, that they are closing these elective classes, a lot of them. Is that what you're hearing and seeing in the different districts you're working in?
There's a few challenges. I mean, one of them is having the funding to run those programs. The materials can be very expensive, right? Imagine for welding. But it's also having the instructors. To teach in a high school, you need to have your Bachelor of Ed. And then you also need to have your Red Seal, let's say. So for us, our instructors don't have that Bachelor of Ed usually, although some do.
Yep.
But they have that experience with the trade. And then so we can offer a different opportunity. We have a lot more equipment. Some of the programs are on our campuses, and some of them are in the high schools. So when it's that grade 10 to 12, that's when they do those 12-week samplers. And it's all day. It's not just a block. It's all day that they spend doing that, those various trades.
So, okay, do you ever hold these courses in private facilities? So, like for instance,
Yeah.
my industrial design shop, like, do you work out in the community in other private facilities? Do you tour your students through those, or?
So we've worked in community with doing sampler, depending on what the community would be. Often with private facilities, there's a fees associated with it, right? Some places may not be willing to take the insurance and things that it needs to be to run a program like that, right? But we've definitely been in community where we have done these types of programs as well.
And as opposed to just having a tour, I mean, we'll often take the classes to various work sites, and manufacturing and so on, so that they get to see that.
One of the awesome benefits to students, so, when we're speaking about these high school-based programs, these sampler programs, they get to do the 12 weeks, but they're getting credit for taking those courses.
Yeah,
So
great.
for many people, especially students that are interested in trades, this is their way to be able to go, okay, I'm going to take this sampler when I'm in grade 10, let's say, right? And now I know that I'm really interested in carpentry. I'm going to do a dual credit. So what a dual credit is that means that they're going to get a credit from the college to go towards their red seal, and also from the high school. So the benefits for them is starting their trades career before most people even get out of high school.
Yes.
So when we take a look at why we're doing these sampler-based programs, it's really to get people involved at a younger age, but also to get them to be prepped for their dual credit so that they come out and are successful and haven't taken a program where they really thought, I want to do heavy duty, and then went, ooh, wow, those are big wrenches.
That's heavy duty.
This is really heavy duty. But now I really actually enjoy, say, automotive, right? They get to have the sampling beforehand in most of the time in environments that would be fairly close to what it would look like if they were actually taking their red seal at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I can remember when they started I'm not sure if it's the aerospace or what you would call it program up in Kelowna.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of kids that we went to school with that did exactly that.
Yeah.
And started in grade 10 and started building their credits.
Yeah. And that's a great program to start off with, especially if you're able to do dual credit, because it's a little bit more expensive. So if you can have, say, the school district pay
Subsidize
for
it?
Yeah. As a parent,
Exactly.
it's a good way to go about doing it.
Yeah.
And the students get to know our instructors, they get to know the facility, they get to know the expectations and kind of work their way into it instead of suddenly being in a program, whether it's direct apprentice or in foundation. And for all those students who, unlike your daughters, won't have trades around them, then they get that opportunity to get in there and see what they think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard from so many journeymen and other people that we've interviewed, and just my own experience in the industry, that it is really difficult to find people that have the proper attitude and disposition to come up in the ranks in these trades. And how do we combat that? You know what I mean? Like, is what you're proposing enough, do you think? Or, and I say that because, I interviewed somebody that grew up in Switzerland, where it was very obvious in their system that you're either going to be in the sciences, mathematics, and all those things, or you're not so academically disposed. You're going to go into the trades. And there's a very distinct split, which I'm sure you're aware of in European schooling programs. How do you feel about those programs? And is that sort of more or less what you're trying to instigate with this, is an improved trades program in our schooling?
It's definitely part of it, involving parents earlier and getting them a better idea of what careers are out there and what opportunities are out there. and the students will know that that's part of those programs. They're the trade samplers. They do some research into those careers. They come home with information. And we're working on, I mean, the phrase is usually parity of esteem, that we're looking at diploma or degree for trades as well. So that is a movement in the province and in the country. And our dean is a strong supporter of that as well.
Oh, that's
And so,
amazing.
yeah, and so just we've done another new event, Try a Trade, which we worked on with Canadian Home Builders Association.
Cool.
And School District 23, where it's for grades 8 to 12, and the parents come as well and spend time on the campus. I was sharing a panel on expectations in the program and sharing that there's actually a lot of math. And there can be a lot of English depending on the program, a lot of academic requirements, and just kind of getting that idea out there of what they might need to work on, and then what the career options are for them. And then again, getting into the shop and getting their hands onto things.
Yeah, it is amazing how, I know before you arrived today, I was frantically pressing out a drawing with a whole bunch of geometry on it for two of my fabricators. And there's more math and language than you think. And communications in the trades is, I mean, I don't know what percentage it is, but when you're interfacing with clients, you're interfacing with architects or engineers, and you're looking at like really intricate assemblies that you then have to translate into drawings and pass out to somebody to fabricate. There's more than just getting behind a tool and making something.
Absolutely.
And, I know that the school in Summerland has drafting programs. The homeschooling pod that we're a part of just started buying the SketchUp license so that kids can start drawing, architectural build outs, essentially virtual dollhouses, we like to call them. And so do you offer any of that sort of higher level drafting courses, or are they all kind of like hands-on with tools?
Yeah. Oh, no. We actually, in our programs, so in our sampler program,
Even in the sampler.
yeah, in our sampler programs, we start them off with drafting. So they
great.
do CAD. The amount of stuff they come out with in 12 weeks is, it's amazing, honestly. But they will start with pen to paper of how to learn how to do CAD or drafting, and then they will go into the computer systems afterwards and be able to do both of them, because our instructors believe that it's important for them to be able to really have the understanding of where it's come from. The other thing they do is they get the students to read lots of instructions, because often within communication, especially within trades, it's instruction based, right?
It is.
And it's super important for them to be able to understand what is actually being asked of them within the instructions. So many of the things that the students learn where we think aren't necessarily all that important, but when you are working in a big environment with multiple different trades people, you have to be able to understand who is doing what and when they're being asked.
Oh,
the other thing they do is they do math. So they do math every day to get them to where they need to be if they are going to go into that trade. So, and like you had mentioned, sometimes people are put in trades because there's this feeling that perhaps they're not academically inclined. Whereas I would argue that a lot of our students are extremely academically inclined. They just haven't been taught the way that makes them feel that they can understand this math.
Or engaged through the hands-on aspect of it, right?
Yeah. And when they get to see, oh yeah, I understand why I need geometry. Oh, okay, yeah, this now makes sense. Like I can understand.
It's an applied skill now.
Yeah.
You've built the skill. You're now applying it to
Absolutely
a real world situation.
Yeah.
That's rewarding.
Yeah, super rewarding.
Kids love that
Absolutely.
sort of thing.
They all do, right?
Yeah, we do too.
Yeah.
We do too.
But if you don't have the opportunity to ever see it happen,
Right.
or to see wow, I went terribly wrong. Like, hey, my doghouse looks really crappy right
Yeah,
now.
that's been known to happen.
And that happens, right?
But that hands-on part of it and the work integrated learning part of it is huge.
Yeah.
There's students who maybe didn't attend particularly at the high school level, and they get into a program like that, and they're there every day.
Yeah.
And they're excellent students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And you had mentioned about, will these programs help with the labor force? Yes, they will. But with that being said, in Canada, well, actually all over North America, we're in such a crunch for labor as it is. These types of programs are going to help for people to understand what they really want and do it at a younger age so that they can get skilled and be able to help train other people. Whether it will be the end all and be all for the lack of labor that we have in British Columbia,
Yes.
that probably won't be the case. Because we just have so many people retiring, right? And especially in trades, like our trades area, the amount of people that are retiring is significant. And
It's terrifying.
it is,
It's terrifying.
It is, but from a labor perspective, and this is what I say to all our students: more people that retire, the more valued you are. So you are going to be making very good money before you've even hit grade 12 if you start at a young age.
You're right.
Great, and that's something that they can level up, and
sure.
and often, if they like a couple of different trades, do double tickets, get into it while you're still young.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there are common threads that run through all these trades.
There are.
That, to your point, it's very easy to double up and improve. And it's interesting to like. I've often thought I've spent so much time in a shop woodworking over the years that when you take a look at the qualifications required in order to become an architect or a doctor or you get your master's or your PhD in something, and you start looking at it and you're going like, well, I mean, I've spent like way more time than that. I go, I have to be a doctor of wood by now. I have to be.
Yeah.
Right. And so how do you get people to think about the trades in that way, where it's like, to your point, where you spend enough time doing this, there's really no ceiling to the amount of money that you can make and how successful you can be in your life.
Yep.
And I think that people, for whatever reason, don't equate being in the trades or being in fabrication with success and comfort and gratification and being a major part of your community. People think, oh, doctors and lawyers and people that make all this money, they're so important to the community. Like every single one of those people operate in a building that needs constant maintenance.
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely. And I think that's Sarah and I that's where we go to all the time. The success of your students is going to happen if they're in trades and they want to be there.
Yes.
And that's the main thing, right? If you want to be there and you're loving what you're doing, you will be successful. And even if you are you will probably still do really well.
There's still opportunities. And if you think about an apprenticeship, it is 4 years of school. It's just most of it is on the job, right? So you're still spending just as long and really longer at learning these things.
Yeah.
And if the average salary is 65, 67,000, 70,000 for a carpenter or a plumber or a refrigeration and air conditioning mechanic, across the country, the average is over 100,000 now.
Yeah, and probably more.
And
than
there's,
that
like you
because of the
said,
opportunity.
there's no real limit.
No.
There's business owner, there's specialization in collision repair. You have a program now for project management, correct? Construction management.
Yeah.
We're super short on that as well. I looked at some stats this morning, and we need more than 1,000, or there's more than 1,000 carpenter job openings in the Thompson Okanagan that are coming in the next 10 years. And we have the highest rate of annual growth of any of the areas in the province, in the Thompson
In so far as population growth?
For the actual job opportunities for trades.
For trades.
So you're in the right place if you're in the
you're right.
Thompson Okanagan.
Interesting. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing to know. I have been pointing out to people through conversation that we are witnessing a really interesting transition whereby the most skilled demographic, the largest, most skilled demographic in history is getting ready to retire. And you touched on that.
Absolutely.
And they're going to probably finish retiring within the next 5 to 10 years. You know, I know a couple people that are staying on in their trade because, you know, they're making maximum salary right now, and they're potentially operating in a project management capacity like what you just described. But, you know, even project management jobs, it's like there are so many diverse situations on a job site that no amount of theoretical training can prepare you for from a project management perspective. And I'm saying this having managed
Yeah.
construction projects in the past, and it's amazing. It's amazing what each site can teach you. You know, and I often have said that, like, if you just take a look at, we haven't talked about the culinary arts as a trade yet, but if you take a look at a restaurant position, the best managers are the people that, you know, they started in the dish pit.
Yeah.
You know,
They've done it all.
They've done it all, right? So I wonder if that project management course could really benefit from having those well-rounded people that know a little bit about each of these trades. I'm interested in that project management course because
Yeah, so this one is newly developed, and why it was developed was because of a need, right?
Industry request.
Industry requested this. So basically, it's 4-person training for whatever trade you're in. But what it is to say, okay, if you are a 4-person, an electrical 4-person, what are the other things you need to know about the other trades that are here, right? Like you know your trade, but you don't understand necessarily what the other trades need.
Unless you've been in a sampler.
Unless you've been in a sampler. Yeah, that's
unless you've
correct.
taken our sampler course.
Exactly. But, you know, to understand what they need, their time frames, the time commitments, and every trade is different. You know, we work with all of them. We sit down with the heads, or we call them the chair of the departments, and every trade has a different feel for them, right? So as a project manager, you need to understand what are their pinch points, or
Yes,
you
that's
know,
right.
whatever that might be, and how do you help them? And often I've heard, and this may or may not be the case, but sometimes when you're in those project management roles, if you're not the actual project manager, you can be butting up against different trades. And instead of butting up against, we want to make sure that the people that are involved in them understand how to make the project flow, or that it's a little more smooth, right?
Yeah, essentially you are the diplomat and liaison as a project manager between a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It can be a huge project.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have a friend who runs a project in the port in Vancouver.
Oh, amazing.
Originally an electrician, and it's a serious task he has.
Well, yeah, because you're like potentially interfacing with like union representatives and your clients and maybe the building officials and then all of the trades.
Yeah. Hundreds or thousands of tradespeople.
Safety authorities, and it's a really intricate job.
Yeah.
And I've talked to project managers in the past who've said, and I'm not sure if you touch on this, it's like there are some jobs in our field, I feel as though, having done a lot of different jobs in the industry, that I can go home at the end of the day. Project management, when I'm in the middle of a very large project that's very expensive, it feels like I'm never off the clock.
Yeah.
And I wonder if, as a component of these programs, if you're talking to kids about the potential psychological impact of being in trades, or if that's come up, because I think that is a really important thing to consider. Is
It is.
These are serious, expensive things that you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when I think about the trade sampler, the instructors that are involved, they do a tool room talk every day, but then they also go through what can be the implications of things going wrong. obviously most important is safety. The hands down, we often speak to safety, but then we also speak to the reputation of the company that you're working for, right? Your reputation as an individual when you're out there, because as you well know, trades talk. So if you know that there's been someone from, another crew that has been not so favorable, often that will get back to other areas. So we speak to them about that.
Yeah.
But we
Work
also,
ethic and-
work ethic is huge. And then we also talk about their health from like a regular health perspective, but also a mental health perspective. That's something that they have a workbook on. It's called our apprenticeship pathway book, and it speaks to what might be the best trade for you from that perspective. There are trades that are extremely stressful.
Yeah, there are.
And some people really thrive in that environment. Others, if they see that, go, "Whew, yeah, no, I don't want to be the person."
Concrete truck drivers, for instance.
Sure, yeah. Or that's a great one to.
That's a stressful job.
Yeah, finishing concrete finishing is extremely stressful. You have a very limited time to make sure that concrete is laid properly, laid flat, and I didn't know this. I saw that actually. We had a CCW program.
Construction craft worker.
Yeah, and one of the companies in town had laid it out of who would be good and who would be bad for it, and he said, if you can't handle the stress of doing this in a fast period of time, it's probably not you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I guess I just wonder. This might be a bit of a rabbit hole, but like. The way we used to train apprentices was, I talked to my old cabinet makers about it, right? And they used to get tools thrown at them, right? They used to have people yelling and screaming at them to get up and get going. And I wonder if there is something that is lost and if there are trades that won't exist anymore because of what it is that you just pointed out. Whereby we're not being hard enough on the people that we're training for them to understand exactly what you just pointed out. Like, this needs to be done very quickly. And, there's no time for lollygagging or checking your phone 6 times or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, this is a serious, really expensive thing that we're doing right now. And if it doesn't go well, we got to jackhammer all of this out. How do we communicate the seriousness of these trades to the kids? I know you brought up the safety thing, which is critical, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean, the instructors are plenty serious. I think
great.
having industry people come in and give examples is something that we often do. Many of our instructors are still involved, but whether they are or they aren't, having industry representatives come in and share information about those big projects, what went well or what didn't, what are the kinds of options that are out there from a small project, and maybe for the person who doesn't want that high stress, right? That this option is here in this trade, or it can go all the way to something else, right? And our students have to have a 70% minimum to pass. They have lots of practice pressure with having to do projects and exams and so on as well. But what we have worked on is don't put the pressure on day one.
yeah, of
Right?
course.
Especially not for youth, right?
Yeah, this
So
isn't SEAL training.
This is a work in progress, especially if you start as a youth, right? To go from there.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a really good point that Sarah did raise. Because a lot of our instructors have come from the field, pressure was put on them from day one, right? So we really have had to say, okay, we're trying to get these students into staying with us. We don't want them leaving right from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
Professional pressure.
Yeah, professional pressure. And I think,
okay.
I think that if you have expectation with the students, tell them what the expectations are, have clear boundaries, you're going to have some good people. I also think, right now where we're at, lots of trades are just hiring someone that can fog up a mirror. And I think that's an issue.
Yeah.
I really do. And then they wonder why people don't stay. So,
Yes.
Especially if they yell at them.
yeah, especially if they yell at them. But with that being said, I think we need to really, from the flip side, is take a look at who we're hiring. Are they going to be the best fit? And ask those really hard questions like, how is stress for you? Do you have ways to mitigate your stress? And I think because of where we are from a labor market standpoint, many trades are just really needing people, and then going, well, that they weren't successful because they were on their phone or things along those lines. But the students that are really here and want to be part of that trade, they're going to work hard. They are going to give it their all. And so we had a new sampler that ran this year. It was called an electrical trade sampler. And then it ran into our foundation program, which it was awesome. So they got to try 4 different construction trades, but focus was on electrical. They kind of felt that electrical was going to be their key thing. And then they had I can't remember how long they were out in the workforce, but around 2 months where they got to get a bit of training there. And all of those students, except for, 2 of them, have decided to stay out in the trades. They're going straight
Direct apprenticeship.
Yeah, direct apprenticeship. The rest of them have come back to do their electrical foundation, but all of them have jobs for next year. So they're all heads down, right to it. There's 3 females in that course that are out doing that as well.
Wonderful.
So within that standpoint, they had some learning. Like they did. The contractors came back and said, you're a great person, but there was some learning you had to do.
Oh, yeah.
And that learning being the phones or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But I think if you're willing to give them the chance to improve, then they're most likely going to, especially if this is where they feel their career is, right?
And that program spent some time as well for those students who thought electrician was how they wanted to go, to see how it fit with carpentry, to see how it fit with plumbing, to kind of understand better the whole picture. And I think that was a successful first go at that program that we do with School District 23.
That's amazing. That's great. One of the things that we're running into in the industry, I would refer to the trades that you have been outlining so far as like the skeleton.
Yeah.
This is how the house is made. These are the nerves that connect the house to the.
Absolutely.
But more and more we're seeing with the way jurisdictions are moving to be more energy efficient. We're seeing envelope be a huge concern.
Yeah.
Do you have any courses or have discussed any discuss the need for any courses in envelope work? Because air tightness, energy efficiency, these are all things that are coming up in the industry.
Yeah.
And we've often joked about it, like I love doing envelope work. I love doing detailing on windows and taping things properly and whatnot. That's going to be a major requirement on all sites moving forward. And I just like, are people getting trained for that?
Do you want me to speak to SBT and you can speak to the
windows and doors?
Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
So yes.
Oh, great. Great. Wonderful.
Our Penticton campus has the Sustainable Building Technology Diploma, which looks at building science. It looks like systems thinking between the design and the construction. And so many of our carpentry students, well, maybe not many so far, but our carpentry students may go into that program, or the opposite may happen. Those students may come to carpentry. And so they have both of those sides. It's a 2-year program. And it's through our technology department, not through trades, but we do work with that department on that program. And
yeah, so we in September, I was trying to think when the date was. In September, we just launched our micro-credential for windows and doors, and it's a retrofit. So if you are in carpentry and you know that windows and doors is going to be something that's going to be big in your industry, we actually have a window and doors micro-credential through a home HSBC, where you can get some building credits through as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so you said retrofit. So we go into a new house
Yeah.
or an old house, pardon me.
Yeah.
We peel back the interior and potentially exterior assemblies in order to be able to tie them into the pre-existing envelope.
That's right.
Improve the seal around the windows.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what they're figuring, you know, when we take a look at a lot of the different types of construction that's going to be happening, retrofit is something huge, right? And that is an area where Fortis, BC Hydro, all of those get involved with giving some grants and some things along those lines to any of the different companies that might be involved in it, and also home providers too. So to be part of, or to be able to be part of getting those grants, they want to make sure that people are trained, doing it correctly, right? So that is something that is on our plate. Another program that is done through Okanagan colleges called the RIT program, Residential Insulators Training Program. And that is, of course, to do with insulation. How to make sure you're doing it properly and ensure that it's hitting what it needs to be for the construction industry, right? Yeah. So these are all definitely things that are coming up. We are looking at some other ones.
Solar installation.
Yeah, solar installation is another one that we are in the process of trying to get the curriculum developed properly for it. And on the flip side of that, you know, that's construction, but we also have our battery electric vehicle training. So, you know, we have all these electric vehicles out there and mechanics that have never been shown what to do with an electric vehicle and how to make sure that they're not going to get shocked and hurt, and that's another program that we have for people that are already red seals. So a lot of these
level 3.
No, actually, you have to be red seal for that one. Yeah. So, but you could be red seal in a heavy duty because, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're just working in cars. You could be working on some of the bigger equipment as well. Yes. So, yeah.
To your window and door, I just want to circle back to that. Most people, you know, like when you look at a building, that's a house and there's another house and that's a house too. Like you look at some houses that have a very large percentage of glass, you know, like even just this wall behind us. Yeah. The amount of detailing and technical knowledge that went into that wall there is incredible.
It really is.
As opposed to my 1991 house.
Yeah. Right. And so windows and doors are also can potentially be the single largest expenditure of a residential construction project. Absolutely. It's the most expensive thing. Yeah. And when you take a look at the most technical aspect of a framing detail is typically the window framing here that ties into this frame structure, right? And then now with, you know, all of these rain screens and these thicker wall assemblies because of the insulation that you've talked about, all of a sudden these buildings become very complex. Yeah. Very complex. Oh, we've made the wall too thick. Now it doesn't dry out. Yeah. Right. So now we need to change the way that this membrane on the exterior breathes or doesn't breathe or whatever. Like, and now that we're looking at all of these things, I've often said to myself, you know, there needs to be a building science course that people are taking. Like everybody lives in a building. How come there's no building science course that you could take in high school? Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. So that's really great that you're looking at those things. Yeah.
Well, you know what, we do listen to industry. Sara sits on many PACs.
And advisory committee.
Yeah, program advisory committees that have industry experts, right? They have different individuals from our community, and they speak and say, we want these types of courses. And Sara brings them back and says, Tanya.
Oh, Tanya.
Can you make these type of courses? And I go, yeah, I think I can. I don't know what my job within that is certainly not the curriculum based. Those always go out to industry experts. Mine would be the project management of making sure those industry experts come back at an appropriate time, on budget, all of that
Finding
sort
the
of stuff.
instructors.
Yeah,
and so forth.
instructors, all of those sorts of things. But we realize the importance, and we also know that we are the second largest trades facility, educational facility in BC. So
Okanagan College in Kelowna.
yeah,
Yes.
Okanagan
Amazing.
College. And
Amazing.
yeah,
We trained over 2,100 students last year, and we're heading for 2,500, and we're busy.
yeah, yeah. So it goes BCIT and then Okanagan College in the province.
great.
Yeah. So
What are the requirements for being an instructor in your program?
Oh, yeah,
I'm
that's
glad you
great.
brought that up, because when you were talking about retirements before, that's one of the tricks, right? So you would need to have your red seal, and then 5 to 10 years of experience in the field. And then you would take a provincial instructor diploma at Vancouver Community College, or we have at Okanagan College, we have the first three courses of that. It's called a learner-centered instructor certificate.
I ask because the best tradespeople I've worked with in the industry don't have red seals.
Yeah.
And the people, I mean, and I've been in the trades for a very long time. A lot of them don't have their red seal. I don't have a red seal.
Yeah.
My cabinet makers don't either.
And some of your instructors don't, if they're not an apprenticed instructor.
If they're not an apprentice.
And so I guess I just wonder if we're potentially overlooking people that have a lot of really great things to add to the conversation just because of these credential requirements.
Yeah. Credentials are always going to be at a post-secondary. We're not going to want to hire Sarah and I for construction.
Please don't.
Right? But with that being said, we do try to involve a lot of people. Now, whether or not they're instructors, we do have them come into, we would absolutely have you or your cabinet makers come in and speak to their experience, to how they got to where they are, and we think that that's important. But we do know, when we take a look at where things are going in with skilled trades BC, compulsory trades, things along those lines, we want to make sure that we are following similar guidelines to the government. It's not to say that we wouldn't value the opinions of
course,
all the trades, right? And I think you're right. Some of the greatest people, some of the greatest academics, probably don't have a degree behind them, but they're really fantastic individuals that have a wealth of knowledge. And I think it's always important to tap into anyone within the field, right? But yeah, that could be an issue when we're taking a look at that. Normally, from a lot of the people that are similar to yourself and your cabinet makers, when we ask them to come and be a teacher, they'd rather teach in the field. They'd rather teach an apprentice how to do it than be in a classroom situation, because their love is in
Production.
In that area, right? Not always, but that certainly can be a case.
I'm just looking at it as it shifts, right? As the demographic shifts. Like my cabinet maker said to me, he just lives right down the road. He said, can I work here till I'm 70? And it was kind of a joke, but it's not a joke, right? Because of what you pointed out, he'd rather be in the field producing things, all those things. But your body at some point kind of.
And that said, we do have prep courses if someone decides they do want to take their interprovincial after all, or go back to it and try again.
Yeah, actually, because we do have some trades that are becoming compulsory.
Give me some examples of that.
Automotive, electrical.
Automotive, electrical, gas fitter, A&B, refrigeration. I think I'm missing. Yeah, heavy mechanical. All of those courses within. Has it already started?
Yes.
Yeah.
Has that not been the case forever anyhow, those
No.
trades?
No,
Really?
it hasn't. Yeah. So now we have lots of people similar to yourself that are out in industry that don't have red seals, but they've been doing it forever.
Okay,
right?
hold on a second. Hold on a second. I want to understand
Not
this.
generally in electrical.
No, yes, not generally.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this, because if there are potentially those professionals out in the workforce, you're saying that they won't be able to be out there, or are we just talking about new hires in the industry, compulsory education requirements? Like how does that? Because you can see why I'm potentially asking this question, because then all of a sudden you're just like, well, how much more of our workforce are we about to lose? Because
People who are already in, let's say you've worked at Cal Tire, or
Yeah.
you're an automotive tech, and
Yes.
you're at a level 2 or 3, and that's where you stopped. You haven't been at school for a long time. Now there's a requirement, unless you're more like my age or older, when you're just going to kind of age out. They're not going to make you do that. But for people to go back and rejoin that apprenticeship stream
there's a
and work
requirement
towards
for
that
this.
red seal. That's right.
Whoa, is carpentry on that list?
No.
Not yet.
It's good that you qualify that. Not yet.
Oh man, has anybody thought about the potential downstream effects of that
certainly, yeah.
negatively?
Certainly.
Yeah.
It's in what you would call an education phase right now, working with employers to make sure that they understand where their employees might need to get to and how to get there. And there are lots of supports for them to get there, including us working on those IP program or IP prep courses. We anticipate having some more mature students. We have a trade success center in the college already, and we work with all kinds of students.
Yeah.
That math thing again.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, one of the biggest complaints that I have goes exactly against what I'm shocked about right now, and that is the lack of education. Updating educations. We make doctors and dentists and everybody go take a certain level of education every year to keep improving and all those things. That's wonderful. Architects are the same. Engineers are the same. Why aren't we? And this kind of goes back to those envelope details that we were talking about. It's like, if you start building your window frames a certain way, it makes it a lot easier to tie the envelope in, tie the windows in, makes the house more efficient. We need to have these updated educational components happening with our trades. So I feel that way, but making it mandatory changes things. It would just, maybe it is for the better. Maybe it is for the better. I just wonder what the effect will be on the actual workers and compliance.
Yeah, I think that's something that the next 5 years will tell us of what will happen within that, right?
Yeah, and we are working with some employers on training groups of their employees as well. We have a little bit of space and capacity to do contract training, and so some of that is happening.
Some larger employers that want to have a group, and then they all get trained together.
Yes.
Because as you know, within certain areas, if you are a larger company, you're probably only focusing on very small amounts of the curriculum. And when you get to come back into school, then you have them be able to go, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, these are the things that we've been missing from our training.
Yeah.
Most likely because they didn't need it in their job, right? But
They're servicing, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're servicing a narrow portion of the industry versus what is potentially out there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the students are expected to have a very wide range of knowledge, right?
so if we're able to do more training like that, I think we're on the right path to make sure people are trained properly, and also a lot of it is education. So you weren't aware of the changes that had taken place, and a lot of people aren't aware. So making sure that when people are asking us questions, that we're letting them know, so it's not a shock to individuals when they go, what? I didn't know I had to do this. Now I only have 5 months. So getting that out to as many people as possible is super important to us.
So let's move over to women in trades. I'm a girl dad, and my daughters are growing up under the feet of my journeyman. running around in our shop and interfacing with tools and with me on job sites, and they are drawing floor plans of their bedrooms and
Perfect.
they're completely immersed in the program. Most of their friends are not and don't even know that the trades exist. They don't know where houses come from.
Absolutely.
They don't know anything about this. I'm also like going back into my wife is also was the main reason why I got into the trades. Her dad was a tile setter. She grew up in the exact same capacity I just described. And she set tile and grouted tile, and that it was really interesting because we, in the first half of our career, we had a tile setting business where we specialized in that, and I wouldn't have necessarily gotten into the trades to the level that I had if it weren't for Karen, my wife. So women in the trades has always been a thing for me. It doesn't seem unusual. The thing that does seem and I don't know if it is unusual or not, but it's the number of women in the trades. You don't encounter them often on job sites. How are we doing that way?
Right.
What are the numbers going up? Or are they
Definitely. And quickly. But they're
Amazing.
going up from quite a small number.
right? Yeah, exactly. So
Right.
anything's better
Right.
than where we were.
So in the last 10 years, say, we've gone from 3% to 6% to 7%. And now this summer we hit 8% for the first time at the college for female apprentices
At the college.
at the college.
Okay.
So, and across the country, we're slightly ahead maybe. But generally speaking, 5 to 7%. It depends on the trade, of course.
Yeah.
And for our foundational programs, we have 20% female in those underrepresented trades, which is really all of them except culinary and pastry arts, which we have plenty of women represented in those trades, right?
Sorry about the fly.
So, and we went from below 15% in the last couple of years, and now we're up to that 20, and we're aiming for 30% by 2030.
So sorry, 20% in 20 to 30% enrollment in your classes, or eventual journeyman translated into the industry?
Classes first, so that foundation level, having women come into those programs, going from 20% where we are now to 30% in 6 years we have left. So we have a ways to go. But things like Jill Trades, Tria Trade, those trade samplers are making a huge difference. We had 35% in 22, 23 for females in those trade samplers. And then for the apprenticeship, we also have more and more women going into those, of course, either through foundation or direct entry. If they grew up like your children will, and they're confident and they're ready to just join a company and become an apprentice, then they just do that. They don't need to go to a foundation. A foundation is set up for someone who doesn't have that experience or network or confidence or whatever it is. So we have both of those pathways available.
Cool.
And I think when we take a look at starting young, so at the college we have lots of camps, but when we take a look at how many people that have went to whatever type of camp it is, whether it's a trades camp or something else, the amount of them that come back because they're comfortable already in the college environment is staggering. Like, that's one of those main things. So the younger we start with getting all children involved in trades, the more successful we're going to be. So, for example, one of our trade samplers has a direct contact with the elementary school. What they end up doing is they do all the cutting for birdhouses. Then they go to the elementary school and help the students actually put together the birdhouses. And that starts in grade 4 to 6. So they get to see students that are older than them, right? Participating in a program. The students tell them about the program, how fun it is, all that sort of stuff. And then they get to have that hands-on involvement with these, cool, we'll say, older students.
Yeah, that's a major advantage.
And
it's huge.
It's completely normal for girls to be in all those programs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. And then we have another program where actually what this group of students do is they go to one of the elementary schools at a younger age. So they are normally anywhere between kindergarten to grade 2, and they will read trades based books, like fun children books, but the sampler students will read it to them once a week, and so that they get
I
to
learned
have
something.
that.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so they get to have this connection with them.
Like the house that she built. And
Yes, all
Love
of
it.
those programs and all of those books. And those students have been invited to that sampler's graduation in the past. So they get to
great.
go and see these students.
This is where this trajectory takes you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So
And then the mentors that they get to see in those Deal of All Trade events are almost all women.
Yeah.
From local industry and also from further away, from Vancouver and so on.
Yeah.
So
I don't know about you, but I want kids to understand how amazing being in the trades can be.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that there are a lot of, I don't want to say a lot of, but there can be, depending on the job site, and I've been on great job sites and terrible job sites, there can be some really toxic work environments that transcends any field you're in.
Absolutely.
That's
True.
that concept, right? So
whether it's a law office or wherever it is.
exactly, you're right. Yes. So I don't want to say that every job site's going to be the best, but I want kids to know that being in the trades can be just so rewarding. And so to have that starting for them that early and to be integrated with somebody older, a mentor, that's so valuable.
It is. And you know what, honestly, I think the key to that is having really passionate instructors starting. So, you know, when I take a look at the people that are hired to help out with, say, our camps, they are people that are really hyped about being in trades.
Yeah,
the whole thing, you know, when a student leaves, so I'll give you an example. We had for our go-kart for our go-kart instructor this year, he's one of our collision instructors, and first day he comes in this huge foam cowboy hat, orange, bright orange. He's ready to roll for the day. So, and I'll set the picture for you. For the day of tracks, it's normally in mid-July. It's hot. It's a Friday. He comes out on his motorbike in a Donkey Kong outfit.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, because in essence, he envisions this like Donkey Kong or Frogger, right?
Yes, of course.
And the kids are going wild, and they are so stoked to be a part of this whole situation. So if we can start building that and getting the right people in those roles that are mentoring the students, sky's the limit. You know, they're going to be involved. This year, we actually ran a course that would be right up your alley called Build My Dream Home. And what they ended up doing was they started off with a drafting, and then they went and had to measure out everything that it would be to do the outside of a dream home in the carpentry shop. And the majority of people in that course were female. Yeah. So they loved it. And two of them had already decided that, you know, construction was where they were going to go. They just wanted to make sure that it was something of interest. And in that small 5-day period, they got to touch on drafting and how to read a blueprint properly. You know, it's a short period of time, but putting that confidence in them.
The fundamentals.
Yeah, right? And then being able to see something from popsicle sticks to then a finished project that they got to take home with them was pretty cool.
Cool. I'm some people, I mean, I kind of have mixed feelings about where we are as an industry. It's interesting to hear you say that in what was it, the next 5 years, we need 1,000 carpenters.
Yeah.
I'd say we need 1,000 carpenters right now.
Yes, well, it's 1,000 job openings. On top of what we already have.
On top of what we already need for.
Yes, if we take a break, I'll put my glasses on and I can tell you exactly.
Sure, yeah. If you want to go, I see you brought a stack there. If you'd like to go through some of these things, now would be the time for that, for sure.
Sure. So in the Thompson-Oakland, there are 3,860 carpenters, and we need 1,760 by 2033. So that gives you a pretty good idea. That's
1,760 more on top
that's
of
job
30,
openings. That's job openings.
Oh, wow.
So that's for new industry or retirement. It's both.
So
to
the
replace
the first
and
number was
expand.
3,200?
38.
3,800. So you were talking, we need 55% more than what we have currently. 55% more.
Yes. So we went from, of the active apprentices that are in our region, we went from 700 to 750 in 1 year for carpenters. We went from just over 700 to just over 800 for electricians. So it's moving quickly. And let's see, what else can we tell you? We have 545 refrigeration mechanics, and we need 200, there's 210 job openings coming.
Yeah.
So again, close to half, 40%,
yes.
let's say. And plumbers, there are 1,245 now, and there are 470 openings for 2033.
So plumbers are not as bad. They're
Not-
30%, give or take.
Not as bad,
Not as bad, but still.
that's a lot of plumbers for us to train, right?
Well, look at it. Could you imagine it inversely? Imagine if 30% of our plumbers quit.
Yeah,
How devastating that would be,
absolutely.
right? Like,
Yeah.
So like we said, we have the highest job growth coming in the next 7 years, so till 2033, in our region. So we fully expect to be as busy as we possibly can be based on the space we have and the training money that we can get and the interest that we can bring. And so women in trades is not just a nice to do.
no.
We have a very big gap to fill. And so we need to encourage everyone to be involved.
If I'm being completely honest, just again, if we're talking about the natural order of things, we talked about the hierarchy of a project and client needs drive everything else. One of the things that I found over the years, the more women that are on a job site, the nicer people are.
We find that in classrooms as well.
Yeah, our instructors comment on that. And there's a pretty strong push for that professionalization of trades. We were recently given a very large donation from a local construction company, and they wanted us to focus on that with the students. Actually, large donations. And when you were talking before about what do we teach the students about leadership or mentoring and so on, one of those scholarships, part of their requirement, they get the first half when they start their program, and they get the second half of the scholarship at the end if they achieve at least a 75% grade and participate into engagement activities, we call them. And so this is the first couple of times we've done it, but those students might help out with an event such as Try a Trade or Jill of All Trades, sort of as an ambassador for their trade, or they might help their instructor bring in a guest speaker. One of the students took the class with her instructor on a field trip, and they had certification for the class sort of outside of their apprenticeship or foundation credit. So really involving students in that kind of professionalization and that leadership piece is something that we're working on as well.
Yeah. You talked briefly about average salaries, but do kids know how much money they can actually make doing these things if they want to stay focused and
We keep
work
working on
overtime?
it. Yeah.
Do you know
We
what
keep
I
working
mean
on-
though, right?
Well, it's tricky because Work BC, for example, will put out an average salary, or the high end is $47 an hour, whatever it is, or it's 70,000 or 80,000. But there are so many people who make so much more than that because of overtime or because of specialization or because of whatever else, right? So we try to say, think about the average, and don't forget when you're starting out, that's not where you're going to be, right? And then how far you can take that depending on what you do, right? So, I mean, the trade sampler students as well get a chance. The foundation students, they all do that.
One of the plumbers I interviewed a few months ago said that when he received his Red Seal, he was the youngest to ever receive it in the province. He was indentured by his dad. From as you said, started in grade 10. He was fully certified by the time he was 20 years old, and had a tool catalog in a van. Owned all his stuff, completely debt free, and he was making the comparison between like a debt perspective to a friend that he grew up with that went to school to be a doctor.
Not pretty.
Yeah, well, right. And so, being subsidized by the government in order to get this education, what are the government subsidies looking like? Are we pushing for more of these because of the shortfall that we're seeing? Should there be more? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we're kind of in a transition. I mean, there have been incentive grants for individual apprentices. Those are phasing out at the end of March. Those are a federal grant. So $1,000 for level 1, $1,000 for level 2.
$1,000. What?
I know, not very.
What does that do?
Well, that's more or less your tuition back,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, really?
Depending on your program.
Tuition is only $1,000.
Depends on how many weeks, but
Yeah.
yes.
Who else is subsidizing this? How could it be that cheap?
Well, you know, we're post-secondary is subsidized significantly, right?
More or less 50%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
So the province provides us with delivery funding, and then the student pays tuition, and together we make it happen.
$1,000 for a 12-week course?
Well, that would be a bit more.
Yeah, it would be a little bit more.
Okay.
They're normally around 8 weeks is about $1,000, somewhere within there. So, you know, yeah.
Okay. That doesn't seem like enough money.
Well,
Could you use more money to run these courses, I guess is the question.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
could always use more money.
Our delivery funding hasn't changed for over 15 years. And so our
What?
so our expenses for instructors and materials have gone up quite a lot. So we run our classes full as much as humanly possible. And so that's from that side of it. We recently did a federal project where the federal government was providing funding to small and medium-sized enterprises, so under 499 employees, to hire new apprentices. So that incentive was there, $5,000 for a new apprentice.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, so
advertised.
that was a temporary project.
That's no longer?
That's not happening now. I don't know what they're going to change it to, similar to those apprentice incentive grants that we talked about. Often, you know, a program will just change, and we're kind of right in that transition. We were receiving funding for women in trades training, which included samplers, like we talked about for high school, but for women who could be any age.
So you're saying you were receiving, and that's
we were.
no longer?
They changed the funding model last year, and so now there's funding going to some organizations instead of to the colleges directly. So we don't know quite yet what that will look like. But we have a lot of private donors that are interested in supporting women in trades too, and so we're just rolling with change.
Yeah, that's the thing. Whenever we're taking a look at funding changes, we just
the
have
time.
to make sure that, except for our base funding,
Except for our base funding, that's right.
but part of our position is finding where that funding is, right? You know, when we're successful, and with a lot of our new programming that comes up, it's finding the right funding and applying for it and making sure we can get it to the people that need it, right? So we do a lot of that. We reach out to a lot of community. We find
A lot of community partners.
Yeah, lots of community partners, lots of people that understand and value trades and want to make sure that there are supports available for those students. So we do we are always looking for areas where we can have more funding available.
Or in kind.
Or in kind, yeah, or in kind.
We have a Carpenter Foundation program that runs in Penticton every couple of years. So it's coming back around in 2026. It's one of my talking points. So that will be happening at the end of January 2026.
I would love to.
And they spend 2 months on the job.
Yeah.
Or 3 months, actually.
I mean, if you need contributions in kind or whatever else, please put me on your mailing list for stuff, because I think that we'd love to contribute to the future of trades in the province. I love the programs that you're running. Thank you so much for coming in today and sharing this with us. This is really important work that you're doing, and hopefully this gets out to a broad audience that also feels the importance. And if we want to contribip, well, how do we give money to you? What do we do? Do you know what I'm saying? Like maybe you could give yourself a plug here.
Our OC Foundation is our charitable arm, and so we have a lot of scholarships from local industry, which is really fantastic. And we recently started a little bit of a competition thought with our business program to say, okay, well, how many trades awards can we find? So we actually have one of the highest awards in the college now.
Amazing.
For construction trades.
It's so important. I don't know when I've shared this before, where you take a look at development construction, real estate, and maintenance of our building fleet in this province. It ends up making up just about a third of our provincial GDP. People have no idea about that.
Yeah.
It's a major, major
Yeah.
sector that you're training people in.
That's right.
And I don't think we could throw enough funding at it, especially given some of these numbers that you've shared, our retirees coming up. So now's the time to fund stuff like this.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
thank you very much for joining me today. I really value what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.